a lot of you would be knowing us. Apart from that, I'll still introduce myself. I'm Ujwal. I run security blogs and I handle security of couple of startups and I triage security bugs of few companies. Apart from training a lot of security enthusiasts from different part of countries. And yeah, I'm pretty passionate about security. So I sleep, eat, drink security. And the co-speaker for today is Ravi Jain. He himself has been really good with security, but these days he's exploring a different direction of machine learning with security. And he too has, done a lot of things in the direction of security. So in something of the nature of things which we are doing, the most important thing is disclaimer, right? Because I clearly need to state that whatever we teach or whatever will happen in this session, we don't hold any responsibility for anything you do, and it's completely for educational purposes, right? So basically, what is scope of cybersecurity? Like cybersecurity has a lot of fields, right? Like say web security or API security or IoT or anything for that matter, like Android or cloud, or basically anything which uses a logic could have a security impact, because there are always ways to break that logic or cheat that logic or bypass that logic. That's when the factor of security comes in, and that's what which as security experts we need to explore. Another important thing we need to keep in our mind is while you know there are two sides of security, which is just a perception, but most importantly, if you are on good side of it, you have to identify every single flaw and you have to fix it, whereas the bad guys have to just identify one particular flaw and exploit it, and you're gone. So always there are positive and negative leverages to it. And yeah, so these days we have been hearing of a lot of data leaks at every single place, and it's pretty rampant, right? So we see data leaks happening left, right, and center, where every single company gets breached or you know so how do you get to know these things are happening, or how would you recognize that you have been a part of breach, and how does this even affect you, right? Before I start the session, it's important that I explain you about the implication which could be caused due to a leak. Say anyone would like to volunteer their email ID, or shall I show leaks via my email ID itself? Yeah, so this is a very good platform which shows that have you ever been breached, right? So now what happens is this gets the report and data of, right. So I think Avikant and Shubhendu have given their email IDs. So let's see if they have been breached before or not, right? So let's check for Avikant, right? So that's 2.avikant@gmail.com. And let's see if Avikant has been breached or not, right? Yeah, so Avikant's this email ID isn't breached. So either the email ID is new or it's not used much before, right? So let's check it. Let's check the same for Shubhendu. So Avikant is at a relatively safer space compared to those who have been breached, and I'll explain you how. Yeah. Again, even Shubhendu isn't breached. So both of them are pretty lucky guys. So I'll just show as my email ID, which I've been using since like a few years now. Let's see if this has been breached or not, right? So you can see there are a lot of breaches which have happened. I've been breached in 7 different places. So these are the different pastes. Okay, Avikant has put another email ID, but due to time constraints, sorry, Avikant, let's see if we can try. So yeah, so basically 7 different places my IDs have been breached. So there would have been a lot of people in this talk who have same passwords being used in different places. At times, it might even happen that these passwords are being used even for bank passwords, or critical places like your social media, which is your personal space. Say I had used a password for Dubsmash, and the same password is used for my say Gmail. So Gmail gives you access to a lot of things altogether due to its OAuth. And it's not very difficult to find these. There are lots of pastes and paste bins, and on hashes.org, if I remember, there are a lot of leaks which we can download. So yeah, so see, it provides all these unchecked hashes and checked hashes. We can just go, we can download any dump. We need to find that particular email ID, find my email ID, and find the password, and run a Python script to check the same password is being used at multiple places or not. And that could be the easiest way even a script kiddie could hack your account, right? So I think this is why the importance of breaches come into place. So everyone should actually use different passwords or use different layers of password. Anyway, so that was it. So basically, since we had a web application security session, so these are the topics which I intend to cover. Of course, let me check if I can do all of them in the given scope of time, but let's do it, right? So most importantly, when we wrote introduction to web application security, a lot of us thought that okay, it would be introduction to web security for developers, and few thought it could be introduction to web security for yeah few thought it could be introduction to web security for attackers. So today we are going to do this. Let's just yeah I don't know if font size isn't increasing. So yeah, we'll be doing introduction to web security in terms of attacker's perspective, because it's always important to understand how an attacker thinks over the portal which you have developed. And then we'll be giving tips to developers on how they could secure it, right? So that's something called as phases of web hacking, right? Of course, nobody would hack a website out of blue, right? So what happens is, first, the attacker goes on to gather information about your website, which is called as information gathering. So after they gather all the information about your website, which could be API keys or any open information of your employees or any sort of information, it's also like it's called as reconnaissance or recon, right, in the field of pen testing. And OSINT, which is open source intelligence, which anyone could do, and I personally love OSINT. After they have all the information, they recognize your assets, they find out what sort of domains do you have, subdomains, or all your assets, and then they try to find vulnerabilities. Once this vulnerability is found, yeah, also I won't bug you with a lot of theory for a lot of time, just 3-4 minutes, and then I'll get to the practical part of it, right? So yeah, also feel free to ask any questions at any point of time. I would be happy to answer, right? So once information is gathered, what happens next is they find vulnerabilities, right? Identification of vulnerabilities. Yeah. And then they do exploitation of vulnerabilities. Yeah. And then if you're a black hat guy, then you do cover the tracks. But I don't do it. You can see I don't even have any VPN or stuff as of now, because I don't do anything shady. So yeah, people do cover their tracks. Yes. So this, a lot of people would have told you also. I don't know if you have visited the session expecting me to teach you to hack Facebook or Instagram, then I'm not going to do that, because we don't do that here. We only people on Instagram pages do that. Anyway, so yeah, so starting with reconnaissance and information, I mean open source gathering, there are few things which I have found, which is pretty easy with respect to information gathering. These are just tool based, so you don't have to use much of intelligence. So I'll be showing how Spiderfoot works, and then I'll explain you basics of Google dorking, and then I'll explain you how Git Grabber your information could be leaked in Git Grabber, and then I would explain you how AWS S3 buckets could be found and how they could be misused for any critical data which is used, right? So that would be part of Reconnaissance and open source. Also, these are the attacks which I would be covering. A lot of people who might have been expecting something like SQL injection, XXE or something, I have not been putting that because of the time it consumes. And since this is a basic session, two, it's OWASP top 10 attack, and that is pretty much found everywhere. You can find it on YouTube channels. So my basic approach was let's go beyond OWASP top 10 and try to explain stuff how things could be a leverage for both developers and attackers, right? So I think I'm done with the theoretical part. So before we start, I also want to show you how I personally, manage the checklist and stuff for my own attacks. So basically, I keep list of things. So basically, there are targets and there are checklists. These make my work very easy. So there is checklist of information gathering. So these are the different, different parameters we can check upon, and different checklists. So this is how they do penetration testing. If you go ahead in this field in future, you would require to do penetration testing officially for a lot of organizations. So this could be very helpful. I have made a personal checklist myself, which covers the checklist. I made this yesterday itself by JSON and stuff. So a lot of things are still incomplete. But yeah, I have written approach and stuff, and at the end of this I'll be giving you a link to join the group where we share a lot of infosec materials, so you could always have access to these things easily, which I have taken hours to put together. So yeah, so basically so this is the the methodology which we would perform, right? So this is what we'll be using. So right now we are going to do OSINT, right? So OSINT is a part of recon process. So this is the checklist, but I won't confuse you as of now, so please don't look at it. Yeah, so we'll be doing OSINT using this particular tool called a spider foot, right? Okay, there's a spelling mistake. Grammar Nazis would be offended. Yeah, so this is the URL from which you can clone it. Once you have cloned it, you can use it via this. There's a huge documentation on different ways by which you can use it, but this is simple way by which you can use. So I've just done this, and let me open my term